In studio as well is a political analyst. So thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon.
I'm sure you're aware, Buzz, the report is out. What reactions can we expect, especially coming from the opposition, who I'm sure have been dying to get an opportunity to actually, go whether the legal route as well as the parliamentary route with regards to just, opposing it, so to speak?
Certainly from the opposition side, the expectation for them is as usual, that they would call for the head of the president. But on the other side then, in terms of the ANC, they will have to carefully look at way forward in terms of their political strategy. How would they manage this? Because it needs to be managed between now and the time it obviously would go to Parliament. I think imminently then somebody's going to say, let's take it to Parliament and have the matter debated in Parliament, especially in terms of the recommended action as to what must arise out of it. Let's also bear in mind that the public protector does nothing else but administrative action. All the actions, including the processes of investigation leading to the report, are all administrative actions which are capable of being reviewed by a court. So therefore, the implicated parties, including the president, in terms of the content of the report, will obviously reserve their right at law in terms of what they wanted to do with that. But what is also very critical and very fascinating to me is what actually is behind the sudden withdrawal by the president of this, the application for interdict. Because it suggests there is something very interesting or very disturbing within the presidency in terms of the quality of the legal advice that they are receiving, because you would not actually spend more time to actually then prepare for a court action in terms of the application, and then at the 11th hour then you then withdraw it. Tactical as it might be, it has got serious ramifications in terms of both political and also legal. Obviously, on the legal side, obviously then the president may say tactically, let's look at what they are reporting on. Then on the basis of that, then we reserve our right then at law to go for a review, as that is actually talking to administrative actions of the public protector's office.
Right. As you mentioned earlier, the ANC now has to be strategic, like you said. They have been rather quiet this past couple of days. I suppose they're also waiting for the report so they can see how they sort of go forward. How do you see, obviously the opposition have been threatening with the issues of impeachment, should they find that there has been evidence of state capture in this report? And I understand just from the bit that we have seen, there's reports that there's some evidence of there having been state capture and corruption in that regard.
Well, my reading of the ANC's silence or inaction in this instance tells a lot. It tells that the ANC does not know how to handle this issue. Probably they never actually hammered out a strategy as to how an issue like this must be handled. If you look at what the opposition parties have done, they prepared probably 2 or 3 weeks ago in terms of what they are going to do today, and they've done that. They've done an excellent job in terms of garnering popular support, etc.
Right, and we actually saw the opposition parties together, somehow rallying around each other, and this issue bringing them together as they all want to see, President Jacob Zuma to be answerable, as they say. I'll have to ask you to stay on hold there. Cecilia Russell is back on the phone line. Cecilia, welcome back. I want to believe you have gone through a bit more on this report. What have you discovered so far?
Okay, so then she makes very specific indications on the state of capture. And she refers, for example, to Eskom, the Eskom Tegeta debacle. She says the Eskom board does not appear to have exercised the duty of care or acted which may constitute a violation of Section 50 of the Public Finance Management Act. This is this act that's been very much around with Previn Gordhan at the moment. So this involves Tegeta and the pledging of shares and repayment and etc. It is also of concern, she says, that it appears that the manner in which the rehabilitation funds, remember, in terms of the Tegeta of the buying of the mine, that there was this question around rehabilitation funds and where they went to. They were in the Standard Bank, and then they was then transferred to the banks of Baroda. And she says that this also seems to be could potentially be in contravention of the law. She goes into some more details in terms of financial regulations and suggests that these are properly investigated.
Right. So yes, Cecilia, go ahead.
No. She said in addition, she said that I think those are the main things around the business. I have not got to any part of this report that has dealt with the offering of positions, etc., etc. So from what I can see in the remedial action and the state of capture, it seems to be around the business interests of Oak Bay and Eskom at the moment. As I said, it's a 300 and something report and will take a bit of time to read, but we're slowly moving our way through it.
Oh yeah, you're certainly making your way through it, Cecilia. Thank you for that update. We'll be coming back to you later on. I'm sure you're still going through it, and you will be updating us with regards to what else is in that report. She was just giving us the business side of the state capture report that has been revealed so far. Coming back to studio, I still have our political analyst, Mr. Kgomo, in studio with us. What kind of pressure does this put on the president?
Well, it is a challenge. I would not like to call it a pressure. It's a challenge in the sense that it still goes back to what the rationale has been to file in the first place an application for an interdict and what led to that withdrawal. The passage of time between the preparation of the application and withdrawing it is very interesting as to why they have done that. If it is tactical, it will be interesting how tactical is that, or how shrewd it is. But it certainly brings a challenge in the sense that he has to now go and apply his own mind in terms of the content of the report, because the argument has been that they had not been given the opportunity to put their side of the story in terms of the averments, in terms of the claims that are made in the report. We have not seen the report,
right,
but they said that they would have liked to have had sight of the report so that they could be able to participate and put their side of the story. It will then be interesting challenge in terms of the challenges that they face as to what then will they determine way forward. I would like to believe that they would like to actually have it been reviewed in terms of administrative principles, administrative justice principles, so that they can be able to then have their rights upheld.
Right.
But the serious difficulty is that the damage, whatever is the content of that report is, the damage would have been made. Then that means, therefore, that at political level, they will have to devise a strategy as to how they cushion the impact of the reputation of the presidency as a unit, and also the person of the president, being President Zuma as well. Because at the end of the day, pressure is continuing to mount elsewhere around the opposition parties and elsewhere around the society that he must step down. Therefore, that calls for a bigger challenge on how to then navigate the challenges around there politically, and also as to whether he can still have a firm grip on the party, the ANC.
Very important. I think you mentioned a very also important point when you said that perhaps the president didn't get sound legal advice to start with. And I think it's a case of once bitten, twice shy. We saw what happened with the Nkandla issue with the Constitutional Court. So I think perhaps this time he was trying to be more cautious and just trying to exercise all the legal avenues that he can to protect himself and make sure that he gets an opportunity to present himself in a proper way. I think we're getting more reactions. We should be having the DA leader spokesperson Mabina Siabe on the phone line. I don't know if we have that yet. Okay, we'll probably be having that in a moment. Oh, yes, Mr. Siabe, thank you so much for joining us. Your reaction as the Democratic Alliance, the state capture report is out. I want to believe that you have managed to go through, just peruse through it and seen exactly what's there. What is your reaction?
Well, our initial response, having looked at the remedial action that should be taken and the various instances that we've seen, cases of state capture, it's clear that President Jacob Zuma is not fit to hold office and should resign. And we welcome the fact that various steps have been implemented, while these should be implemented first and foremost being a judicial inquiry, as well as Parliament having to review breaches of the Executive Ethics Act, as well as the NPA having to investigate. And the fact that the NPA has to investigate means that there's prima facie case for criminal case being charged here.
Right. So a few minutes ago, we got a reaction before the report was outed. The DA leader, Musa Maimane, was saying that going forward, they will be waiting to see the contents of this report. And one of the things that you will be pushing as an opposition party is the motion of impeachment. What else are you hoping to? How else are you hoping to react with regards to this report?
Well, we've tabled an intention to set a motion of no confidence against the president, which we hope will be heard in the next few weeks in Parliament. This report makes it ripe for that motion of no confidence, because it's clear that President Jacob Zuma has sold the country to the highest bidder, and that this is a man who has undermined the Constitution and the legitimacy of South Africa. We have a political cabal running the country for their own interests, not in line with the Constitution or the rule of law. We're in a very dangerous space as a country, but we hope that this Public Protector's report and the remedial action that will be implemented without haste will bring an end to Jacob Zuma and the ANC.
All right, Mrs. Yabe, thank you for your time here on ANN7, Democratic Alliance there, Mabine Siyabe. Mr. Kgomo, reactions from opposition parties obviously taking advantage of this situation, and, you know, a normal reaction for opposition, they would be wanting obviously to go forward and make sure that they increase, especially their voter base as we approach the general elections in 2019.
Obviously, they see this as a very grand opportunity. It is like the lions encircling a buffalo, as it were. So what we are seeing from their side is simply that they now would like to now go to Parliament and do what is racially what they are used to do, that is passing a motion of no confidence. In the past, we know that such attempts had failed. But now, I would like to also say what I said before as to whether the president at this point in time is still having a firm grip on the ANC, the party, especially the caucus in Parliament. If a motion of no confidence was put before the local government election in August, we know it would fail. I am unable to know whether, if it is passed tomorrow, as to whether it will achieve the same result of failure or not on the part of the ANC, which has been firmly behind its president. This, which I'm saying now, says that depending on whatever the political strategy around the president is hammered out by the ANC itself, it will then determine as to what the way forward is in terms of the political survival of President Zuma. I am very suspicious as to whether the loyalty and the confidence level of the ANC caucus in Parliament, given the recent utterances of some members, even the chief whip himself from that part of the world. And therefore, that, I think, stands to be exploited by the opposition parties to take a chance as to whether this time around they can be able to mount a successful impeachment or a motion of no confidence. But that remains to be seen.
Yes, that will happen in Parliament. We'll see how that pans out. Let's take a look at some of the remedial action that has been proposed by the Public Protector. And in this report, she says the President to appoint within 30 days a commission of inquiry headed by a judge solely selected by the Chief Justice. Do you think this is a positive way to go?
Well, I think the positive thing, I think, is that the President is vested with the power in terms of the Commissions Act of 1947, as well as the Constitution. There is a specific provision that says the President is empowered to do that. What is going to be very interesting is whether the President, having this opportunity, will broaden the terms of reference of that commission. Because it has been argued that the state capture is not confined to what the Public Protector has been investigating. It goes far beyond that. I would like to believe that this is probably a very good opportunity for the president, given the power that he has, that he can decide using his own discretion to broaden the terms of reference of the commission so that it can actually be able to unearth other things that have never been investigated.
Right.
There has been several others which have been alleged in the past, going back to the times of apartheid even.
Yes, Mr. Kgomo, I'll ask you to hold on to your thoughts.